There's a lot of pressure on European nations to increase defence spending, especially because it was front and centre of this summit today. Sir Keir Starmer has announced an increase in defence spending for the United Kingdom. But as you'll know, Canada continues to not spend enough. You aren't meeting your 2% target on defence spending, and the predictions are that you're not going to do that until 2030. That's not good enough given the change of events, is it?
Well, the world has changed. The time of peace that we had after the Cold War has been upended, and it is now necessary for countries to be spending significantly more on defense. And Canada is no exception to that. When I took office in 2015, Canada was spending, despite the NATO guarantee of a few years before, Canada was spending less than 1% on defense. It was my government that has tripled defense spending between then and 2030, and we're actually on track to reach that 2%. Now, we understand we all need to do more, and we are busy doing more, including buying 88 F-35s, moving forward on a dozen new submarines to help patrol the Arctic, making investments in NORAD, making investments in capacities, including making investments for Ukraine. And we will continue to do more. That is what not just our allies expect, that's what Canadians expect, and we will keep doing that.
But do you think that Canada will reach that 2% way before 2032? And just to follow up, we all saw the events in the Oval Office the other day. President Trump has been very critical of your own defence spending. Given what we've seen, do you see President Trump as an ally or an adversary in all of this?
The United States will always be an ally. Americans and Canadians and indeed allies from around the world have stood and fought against tyranny and fascism and Nazism and stood and died together on battlefields across Europe and in various places. We will continue to work together to build a stronger world.
You were, of course, Prime Minister during President Trump's first term, and he was adamant even then about the 2% NATO commitment. Do you think it's perhaps one of your biggest mistakes not to have addressed that in his years out of office, because he was always going to come back and press on that point again?
As I said, Canada has more than tripled its defense spending between 2015 to 2030. That was a decision that we took after a conservative government had allowed our defense spending to slip below 1%. We are now on track to reaching the 2%, and indeed, it's not about just focusing on the numbers, although yes, we need to reach those numbers. It's about ensuring that Canada has the capacity to defend the Arctic, to be there for our NATO allies, as we are in Latvia leading the enhanced forward presence. We are going to continue to be stepping up because, quite frankly, Canadian men and women of the armed forces are respected and valued and needed in contexts around the world. And the biggest grumble of many of our partners is, we love Canada, we just need a little more of you. And that is exactly why the Chief of Defence Staff has increased enrollment in the Canadian Armed Forces, and we're stepping up in a number of ways to ensure that we're increasing our defence spending. And I have no doubt that the next Prime Minister of Canada will continue to do just that.